Welcome to Fatty to Baddie, the podcast where we talk about healing our relationship with food, body image, trauma, and self-worth. I'm a current fatty and future baddie, learning how to become the happiest, healthiest, and most confident version of myself without shame, crash diets, or pretending the journey is easy. This is a space for honest conversations about obesity, health, and loving yourself enough to care for your body. When people hear I'm trying to lose weight, they often assume that the hardest part is going to the gym and eating healthy, and I just don't really think that's true. I think if it were about information, I think more people would be doing it. I think it'd be a lot more common. If it was about information, that'd be easy. I am aware that vegetables are healthier than French fries. I am aware that strawberries and whipped cream can be a better dessert than a cake. I'm aware that going for a walk or a run is healthy. So information regarding how to lose weight, I don't feel like is the issue anymore. I think the hard part is changing the person making those choices. It takes a lot of insight and a lot of personal work to work through the reasons that all of us choose the foods we eat, the lack of movement, or whatever our personal issue is regarding weight loss. It takes delving into that person and really doing some inner work. Today, I want to talk about what has actually been difficult. We don't struggle because we're stupid. I think nutritionally there's some information that isn't transparent to children, to young adults, and especially with TikTok posting why diet soda is gonna cause cancer and all of these very exaggerated claims regarding nutrition. There is some misinformation there. However, calories in, calories out is something that at least I have been taught my entire life. But I think there's a lot more to it. So I think personally, I always knew how to lose weight. I knew going on a run would be helpful along with eating in a calorie deficit. I knew this information. It was just then finding someone motivated enough to not only change the habits, but change the person needing to enforce those habits. So lacking the specific information on losing weight was not the problem. However, lacking information on nutritional benefits of certain foods, so what fiber does for you, what fiber is in, what protein does for you, what protein is in, what carbs do for you, and not making carbs scary. Because I'm not gonna lie, I really thought I was gonna be fat forever because ain't no way I can give up all of my carbs. But it's also like you don't have to, and carbs serve a purpose. There's a reason why that's one of the... When I went to a dietitian, we talked about this last episode, they said to make sure every meal has protein, carbs, and fats. And there's a reason for those three things. And so finding out that kind of information, yes, I lacked that information. But as far as weight loss information, calories in, calories out, I didn't lack that. But what I did lack was the person wanting to make those habits a thing long term, because motivation only gets you so far. So when I think of what I was really missing, I think what I was really missing was a healthy me. I was really missing the Desi that wanted a healthier self. I, for so long, wanted a skinny self. I, for so long, wanted a not fat self. But I don't think I was in the mindset of wanting a healthy self. I think that's where the restriction piece of my binging cycles came from. I wanted to be a skinny Desi. So a skinny Desi wouldn't eat much. It causes this cycle where I don't eat much, and then I don't eat much again, and then because I didn't eat much for 2 days, I can overeat. But really those 2 little meals had high calories. So really, I equaled myself on calories or went way over. And that just continues the cycle, because then I feel guilty about having been in such a surplus that I stop eating again. I go back to what I wanted to be, which was skinny Desi. And I think it took me not caring about what the outcome of my weight is going to look like and focusing on wanting to be healthy Desi before changes actually started occurring. Because healthy Desi thinks of those habits, thinks of those activities. So I think what I was missing was healthy Desi, was the person making the accurate choices. We have the information. What's missing is the person who wants to make those choices. Food is not just food to some of us. To some of us, food is comforting. Some it's rewarding. And some it's safety. And personally, I've experienced where food has been all three. I've had moments where food has been comforting, and for me, that's cake. If I'm having a really, really rough day, some of my old habits would have been going and getting a cake from the grocery store, getting those slices to go from Walmart, from Russ's Market. Hi, honey. Okay, lady. There you go. Cake is comforting. I will grab a slice of cake from the grocery store if I'm having a really bad day. If I'm having a really good day, I will also grab it from the grocery store. Food was safety for me when I was a child, and if there was yelling in the home, that was when things got quiet. That was the time that I knew I had space for myself. That was the time that I knew all that mattered was me and that plate of food. And honestly, that in itself was comforting for a very, very long time. It was comforting. It was safety. And honestly, it's been really a rewarding thing for my entire life. Even though I had a piece of cake last night, if I did great on a test, I'm having another piece today to reward myself. And I think that's where all of this cycles. I think it's okay to use food at times as a reward. Like, oh, you graduated, all the family's going to go out to supper. I think that that's fine. I think it's when it becomes a cycle where it's all of those things. Because like I just mentioned, if I had a bad day, cake. If I had a good day, cake. If I killed it at work, cake. If I was going on vacation, cake. Everything can be solved by cake, and that's where the relationship with food is not just food anymore. And I'm saying cake because I know that cake is my weakness. A strawberry frosted cake is my weakness, okay? I know that. But honestly, it's about all foods. I mentioned when it came to safety that things were quiet when I was eating. So I would get a big meal and eat the entire meal, because for all of that time that I was eating, everything was quiet. Nothing else mattered. Nobody bothered me. I was eating. And oftentimes, I would get seconds. Not because I was hungry, but again, because of the comfort. These are when I started realizing food was not solving my hunger. It was solving my emotions. And this goes back to where I mentioned we have to dig deeper into the person making these choices, because really it was my emotions being solved, which I should be solving my emotions. I shouldn't have to have food to be the one to solve them. So the issue was, deep down, I didn't know how to solve my emotions. I had to accept that. And that's a hard thing to accept, to know that I'm 24 years old and still struggling to manage my own emotions. That's extremely difficult to know and to accept. but I had to move forward. By solving my emotions, food was numbing me. Food was distracting me. Food was comforting me. Food became predictable when life couldn't be. I had a lot of unpredictability. A lot. Growing up, then going to college, not exactly knowing where I might stay in between breaks in college, then going into my master's right after, working a full-time job, working a part-time job, and going to school full-time, then part-time, being in a relationship that ended on terms that weren't so great, and all at the same time trying to still live a life and socialize so that I didn't lose all my friends. There was a lot of unpredictability. But you know what was always predictable? A Big Mac with extra mac sauce, a French fry, a large Sprite with some grenadine in it, a piece of cake with strawberry frosting on top. Those were so predictable. And for a while, that was the only predictable thing in my life. And at 23, 24, I didn't know how to handle unpredictability. So when it happened, I ran to the thing that I knew best, that was closest to me, and that provided me comfort. And then I made the hard decision of making my food unpredictable. I didn't go for the foods that I normally went for anymore. I worked on my own emotions enough to be able to force myself to eat different foods. And not force as in force feed, right? I still finished when I didn't want something, but I made healthy foods, but I made them in unhealthy ways, if that makes sense. Or I made unhealthy foods in healthy ways. So one day I wanted this kind of Spanish rice-ish thing. Instead, we threw cauliflower rice in, added a bunch of veggies. So there was red and orange bell pepper, onion, pound of beef, tomatoes, and then tomato sauce and tomato paste. Honestly, best thing we've ever done. Go and do it if you would like to. But that, like things like that, or making a burger, but weighing out the meat, choosing a reduced fat cheese slice, finding the keto buns. Let me tell you, keto buns, you can't even tell. You can't even tell. So keto buns, light mayo, sugar-free ketchup. Girl, you have like 25 grams of protein, 300 calories, 350 calories. Amazing. So that was a side tangent. You're welcome. Anyways, what I'm saying by this is by making these changes, my cravings changed. I crave cottage cheese, which I always have enjoyed cottage cheese. We just never had it in the house. But I crave cottage cheese. I crave fruit. I have to have my fruit with my breakfast every morning. I have to. I cannot eat my yogurt bowl if I do not have my fruit. I crave my energy balls as a snack. That was wild to me. I made it just so that I would have something else fibrous throughout the day. But now I like actually crave them. I'm actually excited when I get to pull them out of my bag. Meal prep. It's what I just kind of shared with you. those hamburgers that we make now and the Spanish rice that I made. I say Spanish rice, but like it's loosely Spanish rice now, right? But same idea. It making those meal preps fun have made me just crave my meal prep. Me and my partner now will talk about going out to eat, and then we'll be like, or we could have our prep. We're having our prep. Like, we always make it to where it's something we want to do. I enjoy my yogurts in my morning. I look forward to my yogurt in the morning. And then, of course, I mean, we all need balance, right? So I do still eat Reese's Cups, favorite candy of all time. Cannot convince me. Big cups are where it's at. So therefore, not every, I guess, it doesn't have to happen. But at the end of the week, on Saturday, after my weigh-in, regardless if the scale moves up or down, I have allowed myself to choose at that time if I would like to go get a Reese's Big Cup king size. It's 400 calories. If I want to do it, that is up to me. That is something that I will not give up because it's the way that I am staying well throughout the week. I'm going to have a whole other episode regarding that. I think before it was hard for me to say like, okay, I'll have that later because I genuinely didn't think I would make it to later. But at the point that I am now, I know that next weekend is coming, so therefore I can wait until next weekend to have the thing I really want. I think this goes into a little bit too. So not only was food comforting for me, hunger wasn't always hunger either. I know I felt hungry a lot. I don't think it was like hunger talking. I think a lot of times it's boredom. And distinguishing the difference between hunger and boredom is so difficult because they seem so similar and they happen honestly around the similar times. You get home from work, it's about 5 p.m., but you're starving. And I think that's kind of where I struggled for a really long time is like, oh, but I'm hungry, but like, are you? Because you weren't hungry a couple of minutes ago, but now that you're not doing anything, now you're hungry. And to me, that's not hunger, that's boredom. You're not doing anything anymore, you're bored. And then the way to do something quick is to grab food and eat it. Because I don't know if anybody else has struggled with this, but I know for me personally, when I've gotten home from work and felt that hunger, and then I've gone and ate a snack. I've grabbed a couple croutons, thrown them in my mouth, had one of my energy balls, had whatever snack I grabbed, right? I didn't feel satisfied. I wasn't full. I just sat for a couple of minutes and then would grab something else to snack on. And I think that's where like I kind of come to realize that's not hunger, that's boredom, because now I have nothing that I'm doing. I think it's also stress. I think also when we get stressed, we assume that we're hungry because sometimes, especially when we going back to hunger is solving your emotions, when you don't know how to handle that stress that you're feeling, I mean, food is comforting again. So food comforts that stress. Instead of managing and dealing with that stress on our own, sometimes it's easier to just have the food take over the stress for us. And I think something that's like joked about a lot but isn't like seriously talked about is how food affects us on our periods. I think like we have so many cravings on our periods. It is actually insane. It is so insane. And the types of food that be craved on periods is insane. Back to back. I literally on my period could eat a tub of chocolate ice cream and then right afterwards want a king size big cup. It's so wild. But in those moments I have to remind myself too, like, am I hungry? Or is it my period talking? And I'm not saying to never listen to your period, never listen to your cravings, never listen to anything like that, because, I mean, it's life. We can make those calories up a different time. We can go move. We can be in a calorie deficit tomorrow. We could be in a surplus today and you'll be fine. You'll be fine living in a surplus sometimes. But I think also what's important when we're trying to lose weight is to keep that in mind so that we're not feeding, I call it my dragon. To me, my dragon is like the voice in my head that like wants the sweet treats, wants the sugar, anything like that. So we have to make sure that while sometimes, yes, we can answer the cravings on our periods, it's also important for me to recognize if I'm feeding the dragon or providing something beneficial for myself. Because if I feed that dragon, if I go get the strawberry cake that I've talked about all episode from Russ's right now, I will end up with the strawberry cake again in 3 days because I fed the dragon. So it's knowing the difference between being okay, and that's where more inner work has to happen within ourselves. And that's why you have to be really in tune with your emotions, with your actions, with your intentions, so that when you have that question, you can answer honestly for yourself and make an honest decision on whether going and getting that piece of cake is worth it. I don't know if this is something that only I struggle with, but I noticed that as I am driving around, I may not be hungry in the moment, but as soon as we go past the Taco Bell, as soon as we go past the McDonald's, I start feeling hungry. And I think this is another moment that it shows that hunger isn't really hungry all the time, because there's no way that I wasn't hungry and then all of a sudden I see Taco Bell and am immediately hungry. Right, but my brain remembers the taste of Taco Bell. So when I see it, it automatically is like, that's what I want. I don't care that we don't have the room for it. I don't care that I'm not hungry. I want Taco Bell. I just saw it. And this realization came to me one time. I was driving down one of our streets and McDonald's had popped up. And I literally just finished lunch. I was not hungry. Not hungry. But as soon as I saw that McDonald's sign, this is so embarrassing, I literally started salivating. And in my head, all that I kept hearing my dragon say was, you know how good a McDouble add mac sauce would be right now? You could have 2 of those. 2. You could have 2 McDoubles add mac sauce right now. You have the money. You have the money. It's right there. You're going to miss the turn. And I was weak at that time. Okay, I'll be honest, my mental was weak. I had not done a lot of the work that I've done now. So, yeah, I pulled right into that McDonald's drive-thru. I got myself 2 McDoubles add mac sauce. But while I was there, I noticed that they had strawberry cream pies back. So, of course, naturally, the dragon, told me to. So I obeyed and I got a strawberry cream pie. And then also, naturally, I got a large soda, but didn't want the calories because this was supposed to just be a snack. So I got a large diet Dr. Pepper. So my snack, because I saw McDonald's and started salivating, was 2 McDoubles, add mac sauce, a strawberry and cream pie, and a large diet Dr. Pepper. I parked in that gas station. I don't think it took me more than 5 minutes to finish that entire meal. And that honestly is when it really hit me that hunger wasn't even real hunger, because I felt so full and disgusting after. Like, not disgusting about the food. I did feel disgusting about the food, but I don't want to like shame a food. What I'm talking about is like so overly hungry that it almost hurt. Like, I really didn't feel good just because of how overly hungry I was, or overly full that I was. And it was in that moment of me being in my car thinking I was going to throw up from how much I had just ate that I asked myself, why did I just do that? The big trigger was that we drove by a McDonald's. So that's where, like, I encompass both the driving aspect of a trigger of a fast food restaurant and that not necessarily being hunger, but your brain playing that trick on you where hunger isn't actually hungry. And also the stress, because there was so much going on that the dragon was able to take over so easily. And again, hunger wasn't even hungry. I was not hungry until I saw that McDonald's sign. But fun fact, when I learned more about nutrition and fiber and protein and the ways that all of those kind of help in those areas of like satiety, I started focusing on fiber and protein in my meals. Okay, so I now reach my protein and my fiber goal every single day. And now when I even see those triggers, food isn't the thing that I'm reaching for, because my body now knows very well, because it has its fiber, it has its protein. We really don't want anything else, okay? We really don't want anything else. And so I started carrying around an apple. And it sounds so like, I don't know. I always thought when people talked about weight loss and talked about eating apples, I was like, absolutely not. Like, y'all are gross. I don't know if anyone else can make sense of that, but when I hear people talk about like bringing around a fruit or a vegetable, I'm like, I'm over it. I don't want to listen to anything more because I'm not going to do that. Like, that sounds gross. But genuinely, picking something fun and fibrous has been super helpful. It's yogurt with a protein scoop, and then it's got chia seeds, it's got fruit, it's got Catalina Crunch, so it's got good fiber, good protein. Lunch is like guacamole that I make at work and then put it on a tostada with some meat. Good protein, good fiber. In the afternoon, I bring 3 energy balls and 1 apple or pear, just depends on which one I want that week. At the time that I can decide then, do I want an apple and a pear, or do I want the energy balls, right? So I have to take control of that hunger before it takes control of me. So by the time I get off work, that boredom knocked out the window. I'm not going towards food because I am so full from the fiber that I've had today that food is not the thing that I want to take care of my boredom. Along with those things, if I drive by a McDonald's is not what I want, because I have so much fiber and protein in me that food sounds like it would hurt. When I'm stressed, when I'm on my period, when I'm driving around, whatever it is, if I'm making sure that I keep my fibrous breakfast, fibrous lunch, having a fiber-filled afternoon snack, those other triggers or wants don't take over me anymore, because I take over when I'm eating my fiber, so that then I'm not hungry enough for all of those cravings. And I guess it surprised me, because I found out that hunger is so much easier when I don't let it get out of control. So eating the apple before I'm hungry makes me suddenly start making decisions instead of reacting. Because I think going back, I mentioned like the dragon inside of me and me choosing to go back into the McDonald's line, that was me reacting. My dragon was noticing something, I was reacting. My dragon noticed boredom, I was reacting, because I wasn't eating a meal that was satiating. At that time, I was probably thinking I was doing my best by bringing in like cottage cheese and toast, or bringing in toast with a side of fruit, or bringing in like just little foods that I would try to eat to be skinnier, to be less caloric. But in reality, it was just making me hungrier all the time. So then it made it easier for that dragon to take control versus me eating high satiating meals and making it more difficult for the dragon to take control. Because at that point, I was like, he was locked away. When I wasn't eating these fibrous foods, he was up close talking. When I eat these satiating meals, he's way back here talking. So I can just, whatever. You say what you want to say. I'm eating good. So suddenly I was making decisions for myself instead of reacting to what my dragon was telling me to do. We talked about like making sure that you're someone who can manage your emotions, and that's kind of where the hardest part of losing weight actually is. And I think where it goes deeper is your trauma isn't disappearing. So just because you're on a diet, just because you're losing weight, your trauma isn't going to disappear because of that. And I think for a lot of us, especially us bigger people, food kind of was adapted to help us in our traumatic events. Like I've mentioned, the chaos, the food was safety, the food was comfort. Going into that, it almost hurts physically when you don't do the thing that trauma adapted for you. So having a really rough day and not turning to food is almost painful. Hearing someone yelling and not grabbing a sweet when that was how I fixed my issues is like actually almost painful. It's like if you imagine someone starting to have a panic attack, so they have both their hands on their heads and that's how they're coping. If you go to them and you're ripping their hands off of their head, that shrieking, that like intense almost pain feeling, that's how I would describe the feeling of not eating when I am stressed, bored. The ways that trauma has adapted food for me, if I take away that adaptation, that's how it feels. It is like painful. It's confusing. I'm not sure how else I'm supposed to cope, so then I'm more confused, which makes me want to eat even more. The way to fix it is not pulling his hands off his head, right? The way to fix it is digging deep with him, finding out those root causes, finding out what's causing all of this anxiety, why he's overstimulated, everything like that, and working towards those root issues. So I think similarly, we need to tackle weight loss in that same way. If we rip the food away, we're ripping away that thing that trauma made safe for us. And when you rip away someone's safety, they can't cope. Whatever actions are making you the way that you are, finding the person making those choices and changing that person to be able to manage their own emotions, make better decisions, can then have a rippling effect of making better decisions for your health. And I think this is where like therapy is so helpful. I personally am a therapist, so sometimes I'll look at the skills and find out ways that I can apply it to my life. I think it's easier for me to find ways to apply it to my life so then I can help kind of teach it to my individuals, right? And I find that one of the skills was most helpful when thinking about food and cravings. It's called urge surfing. It's a DBT skill. Basically what urge surfing is you're just riding the wave of your urge. So urges come and go, cravings come and go. If I would have kept driving past that McDonald's, at some point I would have forgotten about it because I had already ate and I was going to have dinner, right? So what I could have done in that moment is just rode the wave. I could have let the dragon keep talking and move forward, and then eventually it would have gone away. I obviously caved in, but those are things that I think of frequently where it's If this craving is still happening in 40 minutes, I'll find something to take care of it. But normally cravings and urges come and go within 5 to 10 minutes. So I feel like that skill has been the easiest for craving wise. There's other skills that I've used for more inner work on emotional regulation, so that I don't pull towards food in those areas. But as far as like cravings and everything, urge surfing I think has been probably the most helpful. So I don't think we struggle because we're stupid. I think looking back, I knew how to lose the weight. What I was missing in all of my failed attempts to lose weight is digging into the person who is making those choices, finding insight into what was causing me to have so many emotional issues, and also just regulating myself enough that I don't have to have food be the one regulating me. Because honestly, I wasn't eating McDonald's because I thought it was healthier than grilled chicken. I knew that. I knew that it wasn't. But I also at that time wasn't ready to deal with the person who was making those choices. And I wasn't ready to work on changing the why I was making those choices. I think something that has been one of the biggest surprises for me as I'm working on me as a person is that not only does changing the inner you kind of change just the aspect of weight loss, what this whole episode has been about, but I think it changes so much more and so many more issues that maybe we face in our everyday life. Because I know for me, I just got out of my grad school, right? And I kept getting phone calls from student loan companies and kept ignoring them because I misunderstood some information about when I have to start paying them off. And I think that it correlates so much with weight loss because instead of just facing it and dealing with it, the person I was scared. And instead of exploring that emotion and then dealing with what I needed to, I comforted myself by ignoring it and pushing it off until it came back to bite my credit in the butt. And now I have debts to pay off, but working on this inner person, working to manage these emotions, whether it's scared, whether it's worry, stress, boredom, any of this, finding ways to manage those emotions has changed the actions that my person makes overall. So I'm budgeting now. I never had a real budget in my entire life. I've been a YOLO girl. I've been a fuck it, book it. I've been a spend now, pay later. Buy now, spend later. Buy now, pay later. I've been I'm only 20 and I've got so many more years to live. I can pay this off later. Like, it's so embarrassing. And it's come back to bite me in the butt. But because of the actions that I'm making now, because I did a lot of inner work to change the person making these choices, find out how to regulate my emotions that aren't in ways that sabotage me, it's helping out all different areas of my life. So yeah, I'm budgeting. I'm cleaning more. I want a clean place for myself because I want to enjoy my future self. Routines. Having routines has changed my freaking life. And it's interesting because the person who's me who has been doing work on me, right? That person now has a routine that if they don't stay in their routine, that person starts falling out. And also that person really likes a routine. So they're the ones that keep building it, right? So that's where it's important to really do that inner work so that you're constantly feeding somebody who is constantly feeding you well. Starting this podcast. This version of me is making this podcast available, making this podcast something that I look forward to and something that I genuinely want to keep doing. And that's the work from inside who changed those habits and who choose different habits every single day. Movement, sleeping, finances, all of those things I was able to improve all by taking the person making those actions and really focusing on how to regulate emotions, finding out why I'm choosing to do certain things and working on that. And in this whole journey, I thought that I was changing my body. I thought that's all that this plan was. I really thought I'll figure out finances later. I'll figure out movement later. I'll figure out getting a good sleep pattern later. I need to just make sure that my body is thinner than what it is. That was my mindset going into all of this. Instead, it has really started changing my entire life. It's changed the way that I view relationships. It's changed the way that I think about myself and others. And it's changed the way that I view me having a future. The hardest part has not been the scale. It's been identity for sure. Because the scale and my mirror are not showing the person that I'm becoming every single day. The scale and the mirror are showing somebody that my old habits created. They are not showing the person that my everyday habits now are creating. And it's hard sometimes to continue these habits when I'm not seeing that person in front of me. But the thing is, I'm not seeing that person yet, right? Because our habits are creating a person. So I'm just in the process of being created by my habits, but it's hard watching that process. So I think that's where I want to end this episode. I think a lot of us wait to be proud of ourselves until we've become healthy, but I actually think we need to flip it and be more proud of ourselves for the habits that we install. Because my body is not reflecting the habits that I'm doing right now. My credit score is not reflecting the habits that I'm putting in right now to fix my financials. But that doesn't mean that those habits aren't happening right now. So I believe every meal prep, celebrate it for yourself. Every workout, celebrate yourself. Every dollar towards debt, celebrate yourself. Every podcast that I post, I will be celebrating myself. Every walk we take, celebrate. And every hard choice that you make that betters yourself and your well-being, celebrate yourself. And I don't mean celebrate yourself with food. I don't mean celebrate yourself with a drink. I mean celebrate yourself by being proud. Being proud that you still took that gym class. Be proud that you woke up in the morning and that you ate your nutritious breakfast. Even though your body may not show that habit, it will. And that's what you have to hold on to. If you gave up now, you will never reach that person. But if you continue every day, you will reach that person. It's almost you earn that person, right? And to earn something, you have to do things repetitively. You have to do things over and over that make yourself proud. I didn't become a therapist right out of high school. I had to continue working and pass my finals. I passed my first set of finals. I was so proud of myself for showing myself that I can make it through college for one semester. I passed my year. So excited I can make it through college for 1 year. Right? I graduated undergrad. Wow. I can do college. I am so proud of myself. First set of finals in my master's. So proud of myself I can finish one semester of my grad. I graduated grad school. And then I earned the title of therapist. And even right now, I'm still provisionally licensed. I'm not fully licensed yet. So I will earn that title, but I still had to be proud of all these steps leading up to it. So instead of us only being proud when we make it, I want us to flip it, and I want us to start celebrating every single step, every single day that leads us to the person that we will become. So maybe becoming a baddie isn't about reaching a number, and instead, maybe it's about becoming someone whose life reflects the love she has for herself. Thank you for joining another episode of Fatty to Baddie. I will see you next Monday. Bye.